Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Tammy, brought to you by BKNI Resources. BKNI Resources is the most comprehensive consulting company in working with individual, businesses, schools, government, and organization. And for the past 10 years, they have been conducting seminars, workshops, special programs, individual services, and private consulting relating to the physical, social, psychological, and aesthetic aspects of personal appearances and self presentation. So, and for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, a little bit about the show. Let's Talk features interesting personalities from all walks of life, sharing bite sized insights into relevant topics. I'm Tammy, your host, a lecturer by profession, the scientist at heart, and Miss Sari Malaysia 2019. My basis from the show has always been about learning from my guests, and I hope you will too by the end of the episode. So let's get started. So I'm super excited to bring our guest here for tonight. Let me bring her in first. Give it up for Miss Jade.
Hello. Hi,
So,
Tammy.
hi. So before we start, I would like to just give a reminder to our viewers that you can comment, you can send your questions in through Facebook or through YouTube. It's currently live on Facebook and YouTube. And if the questions for Miss Jane and comments, I will show them on screen, and Miss Jane will happily answer the questions to you. So today's episode is about starting a business,
Mm.
especially in the current pandemic. So Miss Jane is a lecturer, my dear colleague, and also the co-founder of My Kombucha and Minimize Zero Waste Store, right? So I think I will start with what a lot of us have, I think, a shared uh, reservations in terms of starting a business. Like for me personally, I've seen how bad it can go if the business were to fail, right? So I've been conditioned from young to, a stable paycheck is better than starting a business because it's less risky and you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to have enough income. Everything is settled, everything is stable. So that's so much more better than putting everything into something that may or may not work. So, Jane, you are a lecturer.
Yep.
So, why start this business? And the thing is, it's not like you're planning to do this part time. You're planning to do this full time. You're pursuing this full time in the future. So, why? And why now during the pandemic?
Okay, so that's a question that people have asked me a few times when I
Mhm.
announce to anybody that I'm interested in, okay, entering into a business world and slowly transitioning from my stable job into something I would say quite niche and quite um, uncertain. That's the first question they ask, like, why won't you just keep your stable job, right?
Mm.
Um, I think the thing with this is it wasn't something that happened suddenly.
Okay.
So like the seed of the idea right planted into my head, it only began maybe 2 years ago. So
Okay.
the idea that I could potentially be a business owner only started 2 years ago because I had the same mindset as you before.
All right.
I worked in a family owned business before, and I've seen firsthand how challenging it is worrying about not just your own paycheck, but your employee's paycheck,
Mm.
worrying about what, uh, whether customers can pay their bills or not,
Mm.
worrying about whether the next economic crisis is going to impact the business. So I've always resisted that. This is not the life I want. I don't want to
Mm.
have to worry about not just my livelihood, but other people's livelihood. And I'm always resisted it. And then 2 years ago, I started to get interested in zero waste. And I started visiting zero waste stores. And I'm not by any means like 100% zero waste. I don't think it's possible. But I
Mm.
just got interested in the idea. And then I kept talking about it, talking about it. And then a friend told me, like, hey, you know what? Actually, the thing that really sparked this was there was one very large Malaysian zero waste store that was crowdfunding for their
Okay.
expansion. So I was thinking, hey, I believe in this business, right? If you're going to invest in something that you believe in. So I was thinking to myself, I'm going to put a bit of money into this business, and then hopefully can get a bit of maybe dividends out of it. And a friend told me, hey, if you're going to put money into somebody else's business, why don't put money into your own business? And that was when the thing sparked in my head.
Mm.
And I let it fester and incubate for a long time. I, over the past 2 years, have spoken to all different friends, you included, and so many other people. Like, told them, okay, what do you think about this idea? And I have lovely friends because not one person has discouraged me. They've asked me why, but everybody has been very encouraging. And
Mm.
yeah, it wasn't like a spur of the moment. It took 2 years to get me to a position where I feel like now is the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what
Mm.
made you feel like now is the time? Like, what made you like, okay, let's start now?
Mm. So actually, me and my business partner, we had intended to start last year, and then
Okay.
the pandemic hit, right? And then the nature of our job, our lecturing job, totally shifted to online. And for many months, I could not think about anything else but that, because I think I was undergoing a lot of stress. During that time, technology adjustments, change, and also isolation in the house.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that idea was put in the back burner. And then as time went on, I started to see that a lot of businesses, they managed to transform themselves through
Mm.
e-commerce, and so many new delivery services came up, so many new platforms came up, and I was thinking, whoa, the climate now is perfect because the e-commerce driven economy is growing now. Now's the
Right.
time, right? Everybody, even the medicinal shop Kedai Runcit down the road, has an online presence now. So
Right. Right.
everybody is getting into it. So after some discussion, we realized we should capitalize on this time because everybody is getting comfortable with the idea. Even my mom is now texting me all the time, asking me to buy something from Lazada for her. Something
Right.
that she
Right.
would never have asked me to do in the past because she realized the importance of e-commerce as well.
Mm.
So last year might not have been a good time because everybody was just figuring things out.
Yeah.
I think 2021, people are starting to settle in. And then the
Mm.
infrastructure is now, I feel, quite ready for us to
Right.
jump in. So I felt like now is a good time to get
Mm.
in. Mm.
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to starting a business, right, do you think that that person or this budding entrepreneur should have certain characteristics or certain traits that are innate or that is within them that enables them to do all this to start a business? Would you say that you have those checklists, or would you say you have the few main characteristics?
Okay. I think usually people that end up being entrepreneurs that I can observe, they tend
Mm-hmm.
to be risk takers, right?
Yep.
It's a lot of risk.
Yes.
They tend to enjoy liberty, freedom, because they want to be able to make their own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them understand because, there's this phrase that people say, when you do something you enjoy, you don't work a day in your life.
Right.
Yeah, I don't believe in that. Because
Work is
when
work.
you do something, yeah, work is work. You enjoy doing something you love, you are happier. But when you start your own business, there's no rest anymore because you're
Mm-hmm.
hustling. The
Mm-hmm.
moment
Mm-hmm.
you start working, you don't get money, you don't get salary. But
Correct.
I think people that try to like enter into entrepreneurship, they need to have tenacity as well. That means they cannot be people that give up easily.
Very
Yeah. So
resilient.
yeah, the moment you see discouragement, give up already.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you can't have that. I think they also have to be willing to approach people. They have to be brave. So to be able to network with other people, because you can't start a business in isolation. You have to talk to people. You have to be
Mm,
courageous.
mm,
So personally, I'm an anxious person, as you would know. I'm the kind of person that don't deal very well with change and stress.
mm.
But I think for me, the one thing I have is um, how should I put it? I think while I'm more of an anxious person, I worry a little bit. I am a bit of a perfectionist to a certain degree. I want things to be done a certain way.
Mm.
And I'm going to work at it until I get there. There are days where I still feel like, oh, this is difficult. And like, I
Okay.
want to give up. And then very quickly after that, I'll be like, no, no, you have
Mm.
started this, you need to continue. So I think um, the courage to take risk and then work at it until something happens, I think it's quite important. Yeah.
Mm. And speaking about risk taking, right? I mean,
Mm.
yeah, it's one thing to, to put yourself out there is a risk, to start selling something is a risk. But I think the major risk which actually make everyone think and like maybe put a stop into whatever thought process they might have into starting a business would be the money.
Mm.
That is
For
like
sure.
the main concern when it comes to starting a business, because you're going to put in a lot of capital, and what if you don't get it back? What if you never break even and things like that?
Mm.
So when it comes to finance or funding your business, right?
Mm.
Um, what is your view on it? Like how how do you think people who are planning to start business have to view it so that they have this very objective view on it and not, you know, a lot of emotion is going to be involved because it's your savings, perhaps your life savings. And how do you make sure that you still go ahead with it?
Yeah. This is something that I by no means am expert on lah, because I also have to speak to a lot of people on this, and I'm still
Mm,
figuring it out. Um, I think for someone to want to start out in a business, it's important to have some savings first. You
okay.
need to have savings and calculate the amount of savings, how long you can live off your savings. Because when you start a business, you're not going to be able to draw any money out of it for a long time. You need to break
Right.
even, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
upfront investment, depending on the kind of business you're doing, there's going to be so much investment in, and it could be coming from investors or out of your own pocket. But regardless, you're not drawing a salary immediately. It's
Yes.
not going to happen. So I think it's very important to have enough in your savings to be able to keep you afloat for at least a year and a half. And I know it's not easy for everybody, it's not possible for everyone.
Yes.
Which is why I think that should be planned clearly. If you can't do it, I think I wouldn't suggest it,
Mm,
because then after 1 2 months, all your savings is gone. Your business have to shut down because it's not going to work. I think that's very important.
mm,
And initially for me, when I wanted to start out this business, my first aim was to start out a physical shop,
right.
because that was the ultimate thing, right? A zero waste store, you want to sell kombucha, having a physical store, you draw people in. And as I started talking to different people, some people from the zero waste industry and friends from different areas of expertise, I start to realize like, I need to find investors if I want to rent a store. And my
Okay.
inventory is going to be very expensive. I
Mm,
can't afford that yet.
mm,
So the after talking to some people, we realized that maybe doing it online might be better first.
mm.
Upfront cost is lower. That helps us to track and see whether there's market around us, because we are targeting Subang Jaya as our target market. Do
Mm.
people want this product in the first place? Imagine renting a store and then nobody comes.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the flexibility in being able to kind of shift is
Mm,
quite important, especially because the cost is there. And I think funding, I wouldn't suggest, I think looking at what kind of funding is also important, because some methods of funding actually they charge a very high interest.
mm.
It will be very attractive to apply for loans, that kind of thing, but you got to track
I
the
was just
interest.
about to ask.
Yeah.
You can,
So
yeah, I mean, are we eligible for loans if you want to start a business?
definitely eligible for loans. They will give you the loans. You can go to various places to get loans. But
Mm,
can you pay back? Is
mm,
the thing. So I think being realistic with the financial strength is also important. So sometimes starting small first is better, because there are people that start business and then within 2 3 months they want to have 5 branches. You can think
mm,
carefully. Can I manage? Can I afford? Am I
mm.
only going fully on credit? So those are things that we really had to sit and think for the past 2 years, especially the past 1 year, to really consider. And because of all these financial considerations, we decided to start online first. Yeah, it's always cheaper online.
Yeah, I think
Mm,
it came. I feel like I managed to find one more important point that an entrepreneur should have is the flexibility,
mm,
being
yeah,
able to, change with times and things like that. And
yeah,
another thing is, yes, as much as you need to take risks, I feel like it has to be a calculated risk, because, like you said, someone who plans to open 5 branches at the same time might think that, oh, I'm taking risk. Let's see what happens. But it also has to be logical, realistic risks.
correct. And I think like in this time of pandemic, right, it's very clear to see so many small businesses shifting the way they are doing things, and that really is a testament of their flexibility. So
Mm-mm-mm.
many out there. I go on Shopee and I see like Chinese herbal shops selling their herbs online, and I'm like, I will never have seen this 2 years ago.
Correct.
No way. Now it's
Yeah.
there. And you can order food from anywhere now. Even mama shops now, they have
Yes.
Grab accounts.
Correct.
They are so flexible, and that's why, I mean, that doesn't guarantee survival, but the fact that they're still around shows that they are really able to adapt to circumstance. I think that's a very big thing. Yeah, you
Mm.
can't be one track minded if you want to be a business owner, actually.
Correct. And also, I
Mm.
feel like, yeah, on a side note, I feel like the fact that we have these platforms like Grab and Shopee and Lazada actually helps these people, because these small businesses, like probably Mama Shop, imagine they have to open their own website. This is so much more easier. You just have to register with them and then you're good to go. You have a shop already,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No doubt they of course charge a fairly high commission lah, but it's still a way to keep yourself afloat and to
correct.
figure out how to, because I've seen also these shops not they start out with Grab, then
Mm-hmm.
as time goes by, they start to shift to different platforms and figure out different delivery systems, and they are willing to learn and
Mm,
apply themselves into different situations. And I thought that was really, really interesting. I'm also learning from these businesses right now because I follow
mm,
a lot of small businesses on my social media and I observe how they
mm.
modify according to the times. It's really fascinating. I can learn so much even just by looking at their social media, actually.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then I like how every time you're talking about your process, right? You were saying I was talking to many people. I was talking to many
Mm,
people.
yes.
So so how much homework, how much networking, how much research that went into the process?
um, so like for my business model, the
Mm-hmm.
original plan was to start a zero waste store first, right?
Okay.
Then it proved to be quite a massive endeavor, especially for last year, because last
Mm-hmm.
year the economy wasn't doing well. We all know if you look at the stocks, right, in March, April, everything
Yeah,
dropped crazy.
correct. Correct.
So we realized that, okay, entering a very niche market at that point, not that kombucha is not niche, but zero waste is even more niche, right? At
Mm-hmm.
that point, it didn't make sense to jump right in.
Mm.
So we decided, okay, how about we produce a product that belongs to us and has our own brand so that when we start our zero waste store, we have a singular product that belongs to us and then everything else we can buy from suppliers,
Right.
right? So there is all these different ideas that I was thinking about, and the homework that I had to do was to observe how other zero waste stores work. I actually contacted about 4 or 5 zero waste stores around the Klang Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were really sweet. They had really long conversations with me on the phone to like talk, and it was through one of these zero waste stores that encouraged me to explore the online platform because that's how they
Right.
started. And
Okay.
then I spoke to another one, quite a popular one in PJ, and the owner was giving me a lot of advice on if you're going to start this, you need to think about this, what kind of location, what kind of facilities you need to have.
Mm.
And they were talking about a lot of the operations things that I would never have known because I'm looking from the outside as a customer, right? I don't know what the
Yes.
behind the scenes. They even
Mm.
have like temperature control room and all that, because they're selling a lot of pantry items. It's
Right.
fascinating.
Mm.
And then I also was recommended by another friend, a close friend of ours, who recommended her very good friend, who is also an entrepreneur. And then when we spoke to him, we asked him a lot about how did he come up with this idea, what are his fears, what are things to think about, and we learned from that as well. So I think speaking to real people that have
Mm.
ran businesses and people that are, I would say, roughly around similar ages because we have similar mindsets actually helps a lot.
Mm.
And then I follow again. Social media is a really, really good tool for me because I'm on social media all the time, not very healthy, but I feel like I compensate that with a lot of learning. So I follow
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these zero waste stores and I track what they do.
Mm.
That's one of those things. And when it comes to the kombucha side, I also follow so many kombucha accounts. Some very big ones in Malaysia, and I follow quite a few from overseas as well to see how they adapt to the changing times, how their labeling is done, how they reach out to customers. So I think nothing that I'm doing is new. I'm just copying off the success of other people, and I think it's okay to copy.
Mm.
Some of these zero waste stores, they feel very flattered when we talk to them because they feel
Right.
like, oh my goodness, Yes, another store. And the zero waste community is so encouraging. They didn't see me as a competitor. They told
Mm.
me like, what, you want to start in Subang? Yes, you need to start in Subang. More people need to know this. And I think
Right.
having that network of super encouraging people really helps me to pick up a lot of things. I won't say I know a lot of things. Yeah, I probably still need to talk to a number of other people,
Mm.
but nothing can really replace talking to a person that has gone through the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. I have
Mm.
two questions based on
Yes.
what you have said.
Yeah.
Number one,
Mhm.
because you see, right, when you were talking about asking people and how forthcoming they were in helping you, do you think it's because uh, we will come back to that zero waste lifestyle later, but is it
Mhm.
because they are happy that someone out there is, promoting this sustainable lifestyle? That
Mhm.
which is why that whole competitiveness is not there, like as opposed to if you were to just sell something products, and then probably the whole competitiveness might arise.
So for this, I believe it could be an industry thing because
Okay.
the zero waste community recognizes that this is still a very new thing in Malaysia. And the
Mm.
more you bring attention to it, the better it is for everybody. I
Right.
think that is one thing. But I also honestly believe that people nowadays, um, they see the value in kindness. I'm being very optimistic, I know, but when you reach out to somebody to ask for their opinion, and if they're good people, I'm going to say, they may not tell you the nitty gritties of their business, but they feel like, oh, you want to listen to my opinion? You really interested? I don't mind sharing a little bit. At least that's my experience. I'm quite
Mm.
lucky. I have been turned away by a lot of people as well. So it doesn't mean
Okay.
100% of everybody I ask for opinions actually give me their time. I
Okay.
understand everyone's busy, especially if you're entrepreneur, you got no time to talk to everyone else.
Yes.
Um, but the small number that actually came back to me and was willing to engage with me, they were all very nice and
Mm.
helpful. So I think, yes, there are some that is just going to totally ignore you. And
Okay.
then how do you learn from them? You observe what they are doing, look at social media, see what people say about them, and observe in an indirect way.
Mm.
But I would say more often than not, if they can't tell you the exact, like these businesses never tell me the exact numbers, yeah, the cost
Okay.
and their profit
Mm.
margin. They don't tell me how much they earn, nothing. But
Okay.
they are willing to tell me just the general business landscape and what you can look out for, just general information, which already is surprisingly very helpful.
Mm,
So
mm,
I
mm.
think people are happy to talk, but you have to be careful to network with the right people lah. So you have
Okay.
a good friend that you trust that can recommend somebody. I think that is way better than you being a total stranger suddenly walking in. So
Mm,
the
mm, mm.
people that I've contacted in the industry, I've been to their store before.
Okay.
At least they have seen me before. So it kind of helps in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think people would be forthcoming to tell their to total strangers also, right?
Yeah. I think there is again value in being polite lah. Like
Okay.
asking properly, being polite and understanding if they are busy, adjusting this. Like simple human courtesy. I think that makes a very big difference in my attempt to approach them as well. I
Mhm.
don't want to be pushy. I don't want to like demand your time. If you can even offer me two sentences in an email, I'll take it. And there was one business that was willing. They had no time to talk to me or meet me, but they're okay with sending me an email. So I
Oh,
just
okay.
typed out a list of questions and they responded to all the questions.
Nice.
And so there were different being flexible with different methods of
Okay.
gaining knowledge, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And my second question was, how when you saw, like, for example, there's so many zero waste stores, and then you saw that there's so many kombucha sellers. For
Mm-hmm.
some people, that might be like something that put them off, like, okay, how am I going to create my own market if I'm just going to be one of the many businesses there? Have you
Mm.
ever thought of that?
Not gonna lie, many times I felt discouraged. When I look,
Okay,
I would scroll through Instagram like, man, not another kombucha brand.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, hey, another one came out. In fact, I think in the past month I saw three new brands that just started,
Okay.
and they're
Okay.
serving the same market, Klang Valley, KL. And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, goodness, another competitor. And I have to
Right.
tell myself, remind myself again, because I
Mm-hmm.
want to also adopt the mindset that because kombucha is still considered quite a niche product, right? Although
Right.
it has like ancient history from the, Chinese history and all that kind of thing, it's been lost for years. A
Yeah.
lot of
It's
people
hip.
don't know about it. it kind
Yeah.
of like disappeared. And then
Yeah.
interestingly, you talk to some friends, they suddenly say their grandparents have made it before, their family have made it before, but then it just disappeared. So it's
Mm.
quite niche. And I need to keep reminding myself, no, the more people enter the industry, the more awareness. When there's more awareness, then they are more willing to try. Because I also know that a lot of the customers, potential customers that approach me, they're like, I've never tried this before. Can ah? Okay ah. And
Right.
they sometimes they get a bit suspicious, but of course I spend a lot of time explaining to them because it's building awareness, right?
Mm-mm.
So I got to remind myself, I'm also a competitor to some people, right?
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. So um thus far people have been nice to each other. I sometimes tag other kombucha brands and I get tagged by them sometimes as well. It's as though we are trying to spread the word in a way.
Right.
And I think it's a nice fuzzy feeling. I know it's competition and we're coming into market share, but I can't serve all of Klang Valley, let's be real.
Correct. Correct.
So it's not a bad thing that maybe when a person travels to Subang and they want to try kombucha, they can get from me. When they travel to say in KL, they can try another brand. It's okay.
Mm.
Yeah, we
Mm.
all have different things to offer.
Right.
Mm.
Okay. That's a very nice way to look at it, because I think that's the first thing that I would be like, do I really want to spend everything on this where I'm just going to
Mm.
be one of the many businesses? Like,
Yeah.
that's considered another risk already,
Yeah.
right?
Honestly speaking, there are no businesses out there that are totally new, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
all a modification of something that exists. You
Correct.
are expanding on something existing already. So to say like I don't want to I don't want to enter into a industry where there are so many competitors, like then why open another restaurant? Then
Mm.
why sell more cakes? Then
Yes.
why sell more fashion products? Like there are a million out there. Why bother? Because you
Yes.
have something else you're going to bring
Correct.
to the playing field. So
The
I think
differentiation, right? The differentiation.
correct. The special thing that you have, yeah, that's right.
Okay. Before I go to the next question, just reminding everyone once again, if you have any comments, any questions, please send them, and I will get Miss Jane to answer them for you. Okay, so basically, right, when it comes to the entrepreneur's mindset, there's so many things going on. Like you said, if you don't work, you don't get money. Those kind of things. So it's
Mm.
very easy to get overwhelmed sometimes. Like, for example, like I would think that if, let's say, for at least 2-3 days you don't get any orders, or or you have so much of work to do, and like you feel like there's so many different things you need to look at. You have to prepare your product, you have to also think about the marketing side, also have to think about promoting your brand. There's so many things you have to do, and everything is you, because it's a small business. You don't have anyone working for you yet. So how do you avoid from getting overwhelmed?
Okay. So this is something I'm still trying to figure out because I'm still lecturing right now. I'm still full
Mm-hmm.
time, right? And I will transition to part time, and then only in the later part of this year I'll fully leave the industry. So that
Right.
means technically I'm doing two jobs right now.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
have my lecturing job that I have to prepare for, and then I have this side hustle. I
Mm.
think one important thing is I mean, again, not everybody has this privilege. But one thing I also heard from another business owner is if it's possible, have a business partner,
Mm.
um, somebody to kind of bounce off ideas with, somebody to talk to, or somebody that knows your business in and out that you
Mm.
can actually discuss things with. Because owning a business alone can be extremely isolating, right? You can
Yeah.
go into this one track mindset and you have no idea, nobody to talk to. I
Mm.
think last
Mm.
year everybody had the experience of just isolation, the voices in your head. So one of these zero waste businesses told me if you can have a business partner, it will really, really help in the process and it keeps you going for longer.
Mm.
Um, I initially, I mean, I still do sometimes struggle with finding a balance between
Okay.
my time because right now I'm selling kombucha through Instagram mainly and
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. That
Right.
means many hours a day on my phone, answering
Yeah.
questions,
Mm.
coordinating orders, making sure I don't miss anybody's orders. So what my partner does is their main duty is the behind the scenes,
Mm.
managing the data, managing the customer's name, delivery address, the date, what flavors they have ordered, managing that data. My
Right.
job is the so-called public relations marketing side.
Mm.
I'm the face of the so-called business. I would talk to people, engage with them, promote, um, like other people's posts, comment, and
Putting yourself out there. Mm.
yeah. So I think if you have someone to help you, it is better in that sense. But of course, not every business owner has that. So I think one thing I also listen to quite a lot of podcasts, and
Mm.
a lot of these podcasts, it's not like business kind of podcast because I don't find those things very interesting. I like to hear conversation and stories. A lot of these people say that if you're doing it on your own or if you're a two-person business, you must have a schedule, very clear
Okay.
schedule,
Mm.
and deadlines. Because when you're working for yourself, if you don't have a deadline, you're not going to do anything. You can procrastinate. I will procrastinate. I'm
Yes.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we did was we bought a whiteboard, small little
Mm.
whiteboard, and then started writing dates and stuff on the board and say like, but on this date we need to do this, on that date we need to do that. And then when it's done, the satisfying cross
Right.
off. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think creating a structure helps. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, with social media, for me, my current struggle is people tend to be on their social media midnight. I get a lot of inquiries for kombucha after 12 a.m.
Wow. Okay.
So last time when I mean not last time, as though my business is so long, it just started. When it first started, I got really anxious. Every time a message came in, I felt like I had to reply immediately. So sometimes 1, 2
Right.
a.m. messages come in and I'm not asleep, right? I will still respond. And
Mm-mm-mm.
I realized that it was eating away at me because I'm constantly on the high alert for a new message to come in. And
Mm-mm.
that wasn't doing very well with my like stress levels because I have to manage a lot of coordinate a lot of things. So I recently told myself, trust the process, the
Mm.
business will come. It's okay. Just because a customer message you at 1 a.m. doesn't mean you have to answer at 1 a.m. It's
Right.
okay to turn off the internet, answer in the morning. If they are interested in trying your product, they will be okay with you. They understand that you might be away or asleep at that time.
Yeah.
So you don't have to constantly feel like I'm that kind of person. I cannot see an unread message on my phone. I must respond. I must read it. I have that problem. So
Can
I'm
relate.
learning to I'm learning to let go of that like control aspect of it lah. And telling myself it's okay, calm down. So the whole like 2, 3 days no orders, what's going to happen? That panic, I felt it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real panic. And then
Mm.
somehow we will run out of stock.
That's
Somehow that
what
will
I.
happen. Yeah. So I'm now again the whole trusting the process thing. You put in the work, you just wait for it to happen. Put in the work, wait for it to happen. Don't the anxiety doesn't help the process.
Right.
So for me at this point, I'm starting to understand it when people say trust the process lah. So I'm trying to imbibe it lah and practice
Mm-mm.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
I think let's go on to your products because I feel like both of them, two different things, kombuchas and zero waste lifestyle. Two of these things are such niche fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think every time I share your post, I kept getting people like, what is this kombucha? Like,
Mm.
what is this? Is it that good? And things like that. I get replies like that. I don't think I knew about it until like 1 or 2 years ago as well.
Same.
So, so what made you to? What? I think yes, you did go for a kombucha making workshop,
Mm-hmm.
right? What interested you to join the workshop in the first place? It's just fermented tea,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
Okay, so yeah, so why?
So my first introduction to kombucha, I think, was same time as you, right? Our friend Yang,
Yes.
the host of Young People podcast.
Mm-hmm.
She introduced this thing, water kefir, kombucha, and when I first tried it, I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, why would people drink a fermented drink? This is
Yes.
really strange. And then
Yes.
as I started reading about it, I think I'm the kind of person that gets into rabbit holes. So
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I need to know what this thing is, and I started reading about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went for several other workshops in the past because I like joining workshops, learning new things. I may not necessarily get into it 100%, but I just want to have tried something. So I
Right.
joined this workshop by one of these ladies who makes homemade sausages. I was like, okay, that's really interesting It's not
Oh
something that
yeah,
I
I
would do
remember
for
that.
the dollar, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
she
yes.
was showing us all her fermented things. She makes kimchi, she makes kombucha, she makes kefir, and she was showing us all these interesting things. I thought that that is also quite interesting. I mean, it kind of ties into what I've recently found out. So go read more about it. And then Yang gave me a SCOBY. A SCOBY is like this culture of bacteria and yeast. She gave it one day to me. I think it was like a birthday present or something interesting like that, or a New Year's Day present. And she's like,
Right.
here, SCOBY, start making kombucha. And I kept it there in the cupboard for a long time. I didn't touch it, but it continues. It stays alive lah, because it's a life
Right.
culture, right?
Right.
Um, and then I saw a workshop.
Mm.
So I said, okay, I'm going to go for the workshop and see what the fuss is about.
Yeah.
So I went there and I realized, hey, kombucha is very easy to make.
Okay.
So easy. It's just water, tea, and the starter liquid. That's it. Well, oh, sorry, water, tea, sugar, and the
Mm.
starter liquid. That's it. And
Okay.
it's the first time I've tasted kombucha made by someone who is an expert in making kombucha, and it was so good.
Oh,
I
okay.
was mind blown by how it tasted. It was like sweet and sour. It's like almost like asam juice or something. It was
Right.
really awesome, and the complexity of it. And then when I
Mm.
read about the benefits, I like how that the person that ran the workshop talked
Mm-hmm.
about it. He said there are a lot of stories out there people tell about kombucha. They claim that if you have kombucha, it can cure cancer, it can help you detox. We like the word detox, right?
Yeah,
It
we
can help
love the
you,
word data.
right? We love the word. You can do this and do that. He said, people calm down. No, that's not what it does. Kombucha is a fermented product. Because it's fermented, it has probiotics, right? Because it is processed by bacteria and beneficial bacteria and yeast. The only thing we can promise people is it will help with your gut health.
Right.
That's all. So let's not go
Basically, it's
too
like taking
far.
yogurt. It's kind of
It's
like taking yogurt.
yogurt,
Yeah.
kimchi. If you drink lassi, if you eat
Mm.
things like thosai, it's all fermented. So
Right.
we have so many types of fermented foods in Malaysia anyway, right? So
Yeah.
that is the same thing. It's so tasty though. So then
Yeah.
I realized that actually to do it is very easy. And
Okay.
the risk of kombucha turning bad actually is way lower than other fermented things. I was
Right.
reading about it. Then I thought no harm doing lah. So I tried making one batch, and then you all tried, and then
Yeah.
friends were giving feedback. Hey, maybe you can try this, maybe you can try that. Then I continue doing, and then you know how many batches, right? I keep making and then
Yes.
giving everybody to
Correct.
try, and
Correct.
getting feedback and positive feedback told me that I think this can work. So
Mm.
I'm like, let's just plunge in lah and just do
Okay.
it.
So
And
the
it's
idea has been
interesting.
there since the beginning, is it? To make to commercialize it. I mean, you
The
have been going
moment,
to so many workshops. You have been
yeah,
trying to do so many things. But of
yes.
all the things, you decided to sell kombucha.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, when I went to the person that runs the workshop asked, introduce yourself and explain why you're here, a typical
Okay.
introduction thing.
Okay.
I told him, I'm here to learn how to make kombucha so I can sell it. Then he
Right.
looked
So
at me and was like,
you already had that idea.
yeah,
Okay.
I think I was looking for something to do at that
Right.
point. And I'm not going to lie, I was severely burned out last year from my full-time job, my lecturing job, because we know how things shifted so drastically. I was very burnt out. I was like looking for something that I can do. And I
Mm.
wanted to make it into a business. And I wanted to have something that could initiate our zero waste concept into commercialize. So I thought kombucha was a very good way to initiate this business because the zero waste community is very into health as well,
Mm. Mm.
very into like natural products and all that. Instead of taking probiotic powders, drink
You're right.
kombucha, a lot
Yeah.
of that kind of thing. And another element that we incorporated into the business is bottle returns. So there's the
Yeah.
zero waste element very strong there as well. I sell you the kombucha. If you return the bottle back to me, you get RM1 discount per bottle. So there is that zero waste element there that we are considering that to be the link to zero
Mm.
waste.
Mm.
So just trying to tie different things in. So the reason we picked the product is because it's interesting. It's
Mm-hmm.
really tasty. It's good for health, and it's easy to make.
And I
So
think personally, right? at the very least, it's a very good replacement for carbonated drinks,
Oh yeah. Yeah. In one
right?
of the girls that was in the same workshop with me, she says she developed autoimmune disease
Mm.
a few years back. And the thing with her is she said that it helped her with taking medication because her medication was bitter
Oh,
or whatever. So
right, right.
taking with kombucha helps. And another
Mm.
guy that was in the same workshop, he was saying that um he used to drink like 1 can or 2 cans of soda every day. You know how like there are people like that, right? I have to have a Coke
Yes,
every day kind of thing.
yes, yes.
Then he
It's
said when he
addictive.
discovered,
Mm.
correct, yeah, sugar addiction, right? And then his mom started making kombucha. And then as he started to drink kombucha, he realized, hey, it still gives him that same the carbonation feel. It still gives him the rush of sugar, but it doesn't have as many additives as Coke.
Right.
So he transitioned from Coke to kombucha, and he said, I'm not living this ever again.
Nice.
And he said he has helped his gut health because he didn't have very good gut health as well. So, things with gut health means you're not regular and all that. So it has helped him with that, helped him with digestion.
Mm.
So I thought like, wow, got a lot of lifestyle benefits. How about let's dive into this? That's one of those
Correct.
things.
Mm. And I like how you said it's like a perfect link to your bigger venture, which is the zero waste lifestyle. Could
Mm,
you try to explain a little bit to people who might not know what zero waste is all about, like zero waste lifestyle? What is it? Probably they might have seen some stores, but it's just barrel and barrels of things or
yes,
like dispensers. But
yes.
yeah, can you like explain a little bit?
Okay. So, zero waste lifestyle basically means that you are trying to reduce as much waste and unnecessary consumption. It doesn't mean you don't produce waste because if you are breathing, you are producing carbon dioxide, right? You can't help it.
Mm.
If you need to go to work, you need to drive a car. If you need to take a bus, you're producing carbon dioxide and whatever, waste. But what we are talking about here is unnecessary waste.
Right.
So like instead of buying 5 t-shirts, if you don't need 5 t-shirts, just get one and just use it until
Mm.
you need a second one.
Mm.
Or if you need to buy vegetables, you don't have to buy 2 kgs of vegetables and then half of it rots in the fridge. Buy just
Right.
enough to
Mm.
consume. And of course, the one big thing that people keep talking about and harping about is straws, right? And plastic bags. Those are not all there is, but those are probably one of the bigger movements out there, which I think is important because we produce a lot of plastic waste as well. So like if it's not necessary, don't use it. That's why we name our shop Minimize. Because we're
Mm.
not saying that you're going to 100% be zero waste. I don't think, I mean, the word zero is quite misleading lah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you hear the word zero, you have to be like, oh, I have to be 100% like totally not consuming at all. Then if I can't be zero, then I'm nothing. No
Mm.
point. The
Mm.
point is not about that. If you reject one plastic bag a day, you are already contributing to zero waste. You are minimizing your waste. That's why we call our store minimize.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like let's reduce a little bit. If today you go Tapa, you bring your container to go and buy food, just
Mm-hmm.
one day, you're already contributing. Yeah. So
Mm.
that is the concept behind it. Lah.
Right.
Mm.
My next question is about marketing and advertising. And then suddenly it came to me, right? Before
Mhm.
you even had this whole plan, I think, I'm not sure, that you started off this Instagram account called Use Your Coconut, which is
Mm.
purely to promote zero waste lifestyle,
Mm. Yeah.
right? Was it a conscious decision, or was it because you relate to the lifestyle and you're trying to, incorporate more of that into your lifestyle, which is why you created the account? Or was it like a transition thing as well to minimize?
Mm. So I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I
Okay.
think my main uh I think I started that in 2018. I
Mm-hmm.
was just starting to understand what zero waste was.
Right.
So I told myself I want to like I want to join this community of zero wasters, but I don't want to publicize my private account.
Okay.
So I created a public account for a few reasons. One thing is to engage with the community. Like if I'm interested in anything, I can engage and talk to them, like their things, look at their events. Number two is to hold myself accountable.
Mm.
So like in 2019, and I suppose also extended to 2020, one of the things that I pledged to do is to not buy a piece of clothing if I don't need it.
Yep.
So I have to say I'm quite successful in terms of 2019, 2020. I didn't buy a single piece of clothing because I wanted to disassociate from the fast fashion industry because the amount of waste we generate from buying too much. So I put it up there and I tell myself that it's now public.
Right.
I'm now held accountable. I don't know how many people saw it. It doesn't matter. I don't care how many likes it got. It's there now. So I put it up there to keep myself accountable. And I also use it as a kind of a journal to track my progress. So I started
And
out
all
with
the new things that you discover, right? Also the new
correct.
things you discover.
Yeah, and like okay, now I started out with buying lesser vegetables so I don't have dead vegetables in my fridge. Then the next step is starting to buy vegetables that maybe are not packaged in plastic if I can help it. It's not always possible, but maybe out of 10 items I buy, 5 are packaged in plastic. Maybe I can pick another 5 that is not, for example. And then just track my progress and see how things go. And then review zero waste stores, review zero waste products. Because I see a lot of zero waste people doing that, and I kind of feel like responsible also to share my personal experience because somebody's experience in the UK could be different from my experience.
Yeah, correct.
And it may be imperfect, it may not be 100% relatable to everybody, but at least to me, I feel like it's something I can put out there. So like for example, I shared my experience on using the cotton menstrual pads, which is something a lot of people are freaked out about because they're like, reusable menstrual pads, they're so scary. So I was very scared too, but I like, okay, I'm just going to try this because menstrual pads are expensive. We all know that.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, if I can get this to work for me, right, I will never have to buy another disposable one again. So I actually put up my review of it on there, and then it actually gained a bit of response because some people were also nervous and they're like, thanks for telling me this. And how did I know about this product? I also read other people's reviews. So it's a community. And I think subconsciously I was already thinking about starting a zero waste business. So probably the fourth reason for me to start the Use Your Coconut is just to see how big the community is. Are there actually that amount of people? Yes, it's kind of also in a way market research to figure how many people actually in Malaysia care about this. Turns out a lot.
That's
There's
good.
so much. Yeah. So it was then that I feel braver to dive in personally myself.
Right. So for now, your advertising, your marketing has always is for now is just online, right? Right. So how do you get ideas to promote them online? Because it's one thing to just post things, but I think when it comes to when you have an actual thing to promote or to market, I think you have to have a proper plan as to how you want to go about it. So how do you do it?
I copy people. I gotta be honest.
Okay.
I will look at other people's kombucha accounts and see what they are doing, what kind of food they're sharing. Of course, we all have different personalities, right? Every brand has their own personality. Every brand has their own voice. I think my account has its own voice as well. But I do look at other people and see what works for them and what doesn't. I think it's always good to learn from other people. That's what social media is for. I feel like the best, most positive thing you can do is to learn there. So I copy from a lot of people. And also, occasionally I do ask friends. Occasionally, but sometimes I just post on a whim. But I do ask people how you feel. What's the feel of, like, what feeling do you get from our feed and that kind of thing. And I unfortunately, because as a business, like my personal Instagram account, I don't care about the numbers, right? How many people like my post. But as a business, you have to care about the likes because that shows exposure. So I check the insights as well. I check how many people it has reached and then how many likes have come in. So that helps me to have a gauge as well. And I realize people like videos a lot. So recently we have upped the video content a little bit because people tend to like, they click like as well as tend to watch video content of kombucha. So basically these few ways lah. There are probably better ways out there, and maybe I should start going for certain marketing type courses. But right now that is my method. Yeah.
I think you're just you're not giving yourself enough credit because I don't think you're just copying, because it's one thing to just copy, but I think you study, you analyze every single thing that you pick, because it's one thing to see, oh, they're posting something, I'm going to post it the same way, probably copy the tone a little bit, but you also based on what I've seen is basically you also see the time, and the kind of things that they do in terms of in a more in-depth way, not superficially. So I think it's not really copying lah. I think you are doing, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, in a way, yeah. Studying your competitors and analyzing them. I mean, I'm a business lecturer, so I have to put my theory in practice. I tell my students to do SWOT analysis. I also need to do SWOT analysis myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
do you think that puts you at an advantage a little bit because you have that theoretical knowledge?
Short and dairy, yes lah, I think. I think
Okay.
so because I think
Right.
I've been teaching business for close to 5 years now, and
Mm-hmm.
my master's was in international business. And when I was
Mm-hmm.
doing my degree, I did a lot of minor subjects, my electives in business. So for the many years that I have engaged with the theory, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
how you know something theoretically and you think you can do something better than the people that are actually practicing it. Sometimes you look at what they're doing, you're like, you should have done it the other way,
Right. Right.
or
Right.
based on theory, that's not the right thing to do. So now I'm
Mm-hmm.
putting it into practice to see whether the theories work or not. I think
Nice.
that is quite exciting lah. So thus far, I'm not like sitting down opening a textbook. Hey, I'm going to do bullet one,
Yeah.
bullet two, bullet three. But the kind of tacit knowledge that I have through the years,
Mm-hmm.
I I it has been very helpful for me lah, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
But okay, when it comes to, do you have fears when it comes to your business? What are your fears and how do you deal with them?
Yeah, I just had a conversation with my partner today about this because recently, I have to say, very recently, I was starting to get anxious. I'm an anxious person. I have a lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Get therapy, people, if you have anxiety. It helps. It helps. Um, so I worry about money. I
Mm.
worry about
It's a very
and
valid worry.
yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And because of my worry of money, that is the reason why I didn't leave my current job immediately. I
Right.
transitioned to part-time and slowly only somewhere in August fully leave the company to give myself a slow transition because I know for my type of personality, if I jump from one thing and dive headlong into another thing, right, I think my anxiety will go off the roof. So
Right.
my biggest fear is money.
Mm.
And it's going to be a massive change in lifestyle, right? Because we're
Yep.
no longer earning what we consider, like socially, societally consider a stable income. And I don't even know what stable income means, but
Mm.
you don't have somebody paying you money at the same time every month. So
Correct.
that means what that means is I have to put in a different amount of effort. But to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, in my full-time job, I also put in so much effort, right?
Mm.
I
Mm.
just need to reset my brain to understand that it's okay to be afraid about money. It is
Yep.
normal. And
Yep.
my partner was telling me, if you're not afraid, something's wrong with you. So it's
Correct.
okay. Embrace the
Yep.
fear. So like, okay. So money is one of the biggest things. Another
Mm-hmm.
thing that sometimes I have fear of is what if we're not fast enough? That
Mm.
means like we're targeting, I'm telling everyone now, my zero waste business, I'm trying to target the Subang area. Now in
Right.
Subang area, there is no zero waste business at all.
Okay.
It's an untapped market. And my
Right.
constant fear is what if somebody dives in and gets into the market before we do? What
Mm.
if somebody comes in and take away our market share and does it even better than I do? So
Yep.
even if I
Yep.
start first, somebody comes in with somebody with very deep pockets, have
Yep.
massive connections, and then just steal away the market. What's going to happen?
Mm.
That's one of my fears as well.
Mm-hmm.
And another fear that I have is what if I don't have the grit, like the ability to be consistent and
Mm.
sustain
Mm.
sustain this? What if I break down and give up? So I have all these kind of fears lah. And
Right.
to a certain smaller degree, I also do have the fear of judgment
Right.
because people will ask you those questions of, are you crazy? Why are you doing this in the pandemic? Why are you risking everything? What will your parents think? This and that.
Mm.
To a
Mm.
smaller degree, there are these kind of fears. So from practical fears to like fear of people's comments. But I think the answer is same for all. Just just calm down, be
Mm-hmm.
rational and think carefully. It's okay to have fear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Fear of money is quite normal. Just work at it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing for again, I talk a lot about my personality type because I am a jittery, anxious person. I need to
Mm.
tell myself that I'm in a privileged position because I have education. I think this is something I shared with you in the past as well. I have education. I have a degree. I have a master's.
Mhm.
In the event this doesn't work, I can still find employment elsewhere. If I have to, it doesn't matter. I don't care what business. I don't have to be a lecturer again. I can work in a cafe. I'm totally okay as long as there's money coming in. So I have to tell myself, like, your entire life doesn't hinge on this one thing. If this somehow doesn't work out, it's okay. You are a very lucky person. You have the education, you have the ability, you can go and find something else to do. It may not pay as much as your full-time job, but you're going to survive. It's going to be okay.
Right. Yeah.
Chill. So, and that helps me a lot with every single one of these fears, all 4 fears, right? This one idea helps me to overcome those fears.
Okay. I think there's a comment from our friend Yang who says the whole transition process from full-time job to committing to a business is a very real fear.
Yes. Something that is somewhat certain into something highly uncertain, and the movement of the market can, fluctuate and all that. It is scary. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, let's talk about some happy feelings. So,
Yes.
I mean, so when you start, I mean, when it comes to business, right? I mean, yes, it's one thing to have a stable income, to work for somebody, to become an employee, but to own a business, to become the boss. What are the most satisfying things, or what are your favorite parts of being an entrepreneur?
I get to make my own rules. I think
Nice.
that's the best. Yeah. So if I feel like I want to, um, it's quite nice to have your own business because in a way for us, it's still online, right? I mean, I'm not bound by 9 to 5.
Right.
Quite flexible. I don't have to wake up at 6 to get to work. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I get to decide how I want to market my product and how I want to put my face forward. Because
Mhm.
since I'm doing a lot of the communication with customers, I can set the tone in the communication. And one thing I really like also is we all have had experiences with various types of businesses, and there are things that we like and don't like.
Mhm.
And what I like is I get to learn from those experiences and then modify them in my own business to give my customers a better experience.
Right.
So, like, picking up from lessons around that I have gathered and I can implement it. So that liberty there is awesome.
Mm.
Um, Another thing that is great is I think I feel happier
Okay.
because the effort that I put in,
Mhm.
the gratification that comes back is quite immediate because I have a product that I sell to customers, and immediately customers open the bottle, they drink, they send me a message and tell me what they think.
Right. Right.
So, like, I get the immediate response from customers, and it's always nice to get a feedback like, hey, your kombucha is really tasty, it feels really fresh. Then I'm like, oh, that's what I wanted. Thanks so much. It's nice lah when people see the value in the product that I sell. And also it helps feed into the creative side that I enjoy because I enjoy cooking, I enjoy baking, I enjoy
Yes.
making things from my hand. And to be able to sell a product that comes from a process of like making by hand is highly satisfying. It's nothing
Right.
quite like making a thing and then
Mm-mm.
offering it to another person and somebody actually wants to buy it.
Mm.
It's so satisfying, I feel. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. I
Mm.
think you know that it has been an hour since
Oh,
we've
oops.
okay, but I do have a couple of comments that I want to show, and also a couple of, I think, last few questions. But this has been an amazing session, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot despite, having spoken to you about things as well. So we have Dr. Uma asking a question.
Mhm. Mm.
So most interested individuals are very concerned about the financial instability as venturing into business is still risky. So how would you advise them?
Again, I'm not an expert in this lah, Uma. Hi, Uma. um, uh, I would say first thing is don't enter in without having your savings sorted. Again, I think I'm repeating what I said earlier. If you don't have savings and venturing into a self-owned business that will not give you income immediately, because usually a business, depending on how much your upfront cost is, right, it might take you 1 year 1.5 years before you break even. So having strong savings will give you some level of comfort there, and also having the funding sorted. So the reason like I didn't jump into having a physical store first is because I didn't have my funding sorted. I still don't. And it didn't make sense for me to force on that, because imagine if we started last year and the pandemic hit. I'll be
Yeah.
paying rent for 6 months for nothing. And
Mm.
rent is not cheap. Remember, there's renovation. There are, like, for my business, utensils and vessels that you have to buy,
And you said there's
refrigeration.
temperature controlled room as well, right?
That is for perishable goods, right? If
Mm.
you're going to buy rice or beans or whatever, you have to
Mm.
store. And imagine 6 months business cannot start,
Mm-hmm.
everything is going to get bad.
Yep, yep,
Modi.
yep.
So
Mm.
there are all these upfront costs that I initially didn't consider. So when I started talking to people, I realized there's a lot of costs. I don't have my funding sorted. I haven't found my investors yet.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be silly. Don't jump into it first, because then I have to absorb everything. And I
Right.
don't have very deep pockets. So I think getting the calculations in, even if you don't have the exact figure, do some calculation. That was one of the big things I learned from an acquaintance. And I think she said, like, really get your numbers down. Even if
Mm-hmm.
you can get the specific numbers, know what you're working with. And when I calculated, I realized online is probably safer bet for now. Until
Okay.
I can find investors, then I venture in. So I think just reduce as much uncertainty as you can when it comes to money. Yeah.
Mm. Okay.
Mm.
Very sound advice.
Mm.
Um, would you think like any of the processes would have been obviously different if it weren't for the pandemic? Do you think you would have done things a bit differently if imagine there's no COVID at all?
Mm. Mm. I
How do you think?
think, like, for me, is it for my
Yeah.
business? I
Yes.
think I would be more aggressive in looking for investors, because
Okay.
I did reach out to some relatives and people I know just to ask if they're interested, and some of them expressed interest. But
Mm.
because the pandemic happened, everything slowed down, and some
Mm-hmm.
people had their incomes cut, right? Some people didn't get their bonuses, some people lost their jobs. And I realized, being such a niche market, a niche industry, and it's not a necessity, not really that essential of a product. So to jump into an industry like this at this time, for me, didn't feel very wise lah, because of
Mm.
pandemic. But if there was no pandemic, I think I would have jumped into it immediately, because
Mm-hmm.
the community is growing. There is demand for it, and people have money to spend on these things. The awareness of environmental sustainability and all these things are constantly, especially in Subang area, it's
Mm.
quite a big thing. Yeah, recycling. There are recycling centers everywhere. So I would have jumped straight into finding ways to start a physical shop, but because of the pandemic, I'm now being flexible and moving into the e-commerce
Mm.
platforms first, just to test the
Okay.
market a bit more. Mm.
Okay. Okay, this question is popular. I just wanted to ask,
Mm.
like, when it comes to this kind of niche lifestyle, right? Some people
Mhm.
like tend to shy away because sometimes it might be somehow it will be a bit more atas or a bit more expensive. But is zero waste lifestyle, like for example, buying things from a zero waste store, would it be more expensive or cheaper than the usual retail markets?
Yeah. So I've been speaking all this while as though I am a representative from the zero waste community. I'm not. And I think possibly there are some people in the zero waste community might not be happy with me using the word niche about zero waste,
Okay.
because zero waste lifestyle has been there since forever. Our grandmothers, how many Tupperwares they have, they keep plastic bags in plastic bags in plastic
Plastic
bags,
bags in
right?
plastic bag is
Yeah,
yeah,
correct. You open a metal tin, you're not going to find biscuits, you're going to find needles and thread, right?
correct.
This is a
And
lifestyle.
Tupperwares in the freezer with fish or meat.
Correct. Ice cream, you're not
Yes,
going to find ice cream, it's just frozen
yes,
fish.
yes.
Something that our grandparents, our parents have already practiced. It is a lifestyle.
Right.
So zero waste doesn't mean you have to go to a store that calls itself zero waste. If you go to
Mm,
a kedai runcit, you can bring your Tupperware to buy barley if you want. They
mm,
do have those things. There are many places that offer this. So it
mm,
doesn't mean you have to go to a physical zero waste store. The reason why nowadays there are all these zero waste stores is so that it's a one-stop shop lah.
mm.
Basically, you come in and you know for a fact, because if you go Kedai Runcit, some things will be packaged, some things
Yes.
will be um in bulk. So you can't be certain, but in a zero waste store, you can be certain 100% everything is package free as much as possible with as little waste as possible. Because everything has to come with some kind of seal package, no choice. But less lah, minimize lah. So are things more expensive? Some things can be a bit pricier. Some things can be cheaper. In my experience as a customer, it depends on the location of the store sometimes. If it's in like center of KL, obviously it will be a bit higher because rent.
Rent.
Right? Yeah. If you go to somewhere that's more neighborhood, I have found that zero waste stores, there are shampoos and all that. And there are beans and rice. I buy couscous sometimes. I buy quinoa from them. Not that different in pricing compared to supermarket. That's why it got me interested. Like, okay, it's not that different. And there are things that are a bit more expensive, like soap. You can get package-free soap there because it's handmade. It's not the kind of soap you get from the shop that is filled with whatever additives they have. This one is handmade soap with natural ingredients. So because it's artisanal, and one thing I like about zero waste stores is they like to feature local small businesses. That means home businesses that are making soap, they like to feature them. So naturally, these products will be slightly pricier because they are made not by machines and not in bulk, but by hand with a lot of attention. So it all just depends on what you are looking at lah. But really, I think the difference is not so big that it will scare you lah. If at most 1 to 8 difference, maybe lah.
Okay. I just find it interesting that, we started off with Kedai Runcit, the neighborhood Kedai Runcit. I used to remember my dad selling everything in bulk, from rice to onions. Everything will be in sacks. And then we converted to supermarkets. And then now we're going back to this whole Kedai Runcit type of shop,
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's kind of like the last question. I think before I go to my last question, I'm just going to show some of the comments that we've got. There's a comment from YouTube by Mr. Kenneth. He says that he agrees. I mean, I think basically from your points that as an entrepreneur himself, he can relate to the things that you've shared. And then Sean has said, yes, he's now looking forward to having kombucha instead of the usual Coke Zero.
He's our very ardent supporter. Thanks, Sean, so much.
And Dr. Uma has said thank you for your explanation. I think my final question would be an extension of Dr. Uma's question. Basically, if you have any advice at all for budding entrepreneurs, what would you tell them?
I'm also a budding entrepreneur, so I'll share with you how I feel.
Okay.
Yeah, because I keep repeating this nonstop because honestly, my business it's only been a few months, so I can't say I have a success story and I can share you a success story. But what I can offer you is something relatable because I'm going through that as well.
And honestly, Jayne, I feel like it's one thing to interview famous, someone who has made it. But when you see someone who has made it, right, sometimes it may feel like it is so hard to reach.
Yeah.
I feel like when we interview someone like this, it is so much more relatable because at least someone who has taken the first step, not knowing what's going to happen, but has taken the first step, has taken the leap. And I think we want to hear that.
Yeah. So like my perspective is, now I need to clarify everything with the position where I am living in an urban area. I have education, I have network, I have language competency. So things are slightly easier for me in that sense because I am able to speak out and I can use social media. I have the technology in my fingertips. Yeah. But as someone that is trying to start out, I think it's a really anxious time. And I think it's important to incubate your ideas. So if you have a business idea, don't rush. Let it sit. For me, it took 2 years even to build up the courage to even think it could happen. It took me 2 years. So I think let the idea sit. Of course, I'm not saying procrastinate. Yes. While you're incubating your idea, you are researching, you're talking to people, like what I did, like really reach out to people. In this past 1 year, I've spoken to so many different people, be it online or in person. Read up about the industry, analyze it, observe other competitors, see what they are doing. I could do better at this, but I would say take notes as well. So what
Mm-hmm.
I did was I even have price comparison charts for different zero waste stores just to see how they price their products and look at these things. That's very
Okay.
important. I think this is the second thing is something that I mentioned like so many times just now is having your financials sorted.
Mm.
You don't want to have a business swallow up all your money and leave you with nothing. That's not the
Mm.
purpose of business is for you to generate income, not to suck away all your money. So you got to
Yeah.
make sure you know what you're doing. The moment, like for me, I'm very aware, I'm very careful. The moment I feel like the business is starting to suck a lot of money out of me, I told myself already I will pull a full stop because that's not what a business is supposed to do. But of course,
Mm.
there's upfront costs. So you got to be very careful with balancing that lah, and
Mm.
understanding that it's going to take a year plus
Mm.
to break even and all that. That's why your finances need to be sorted carefully. But when
Mm.
you reach a point where it's like no turning back, then you got to be very careful with that.
Mm.
And the next thing is surround yourself with people that are not yes men. I'm not saying
Mm.
people that say yes to everything, but surround yourself with people that are objective. Like
Mm.
you and our good friends around us, Young and Sophia. These are people that are not yes people. You are not a yes person. You won't just like yes, do that. But
Mm.
people that can see things in an objective way
Mm.
and actually call you out on when you are making a rash decision or tell you, hey, maybe think twice about this or talk to this person. I think they know better. So I think surrounding yourself, that's why I don't think it's an isolated thing. You
Mm.
need to bring in minds. And then of course, if you can help it, have a partner, business
Mm-hmm.
partner that has I think having a business partner with similar values is very important. If you have a
Mm.
business partner with very, very different values, it's not good. The cooperation is not going to work out. So have partners that have similar values and
Mm-hmm.
also have the same intentions of wanting the business to grow.
Mm.
uh, for like a better word lah, like good value. So I think these are for me in my experience has been very helpful lah. Yeah,
Right.
and also be patient because I can get very impatient. I'm not really into astrology, but apparently Aries people are like that, hot-headed and anxious, and that's what I am. I get hot-headed and highly impatient. But
Mm-hmm.
my business has only been 5 months. I cannot expect the success of a business that's been around for 5 years. So
Right.
learning to be patient and let the process run its course, I think it's important. That's
Right.
what I have right now.
Okay. That's amazing. I feel like uh before we end, we have one last this is from Raymond. Not a question, but do you want to collab in the future?
Ray, if I have a physical store next time, there will be one corner dedicated for your products. Trust me, your photography, man, is going to be there.
Okay. Okay, on that note, I think that wraps up our session for tonight. It's like almost 1 hour, 15 minutes. I think it's perfect.
Oh,
I feel like,
wow.
yeah. I feel like it's a very fruitful session. It was such an easy conversation. And also because I feel like you had such important insights. And I think it'd be really useful for people who are just, toying with the idea of starting a business. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jayne, for spending an hour with me.
Thanks for having me on your show. Talk to you soon, Tammy.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so thank you all for tuning in. I still see quite a number of you still watching. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the questions. And if you missed part of this episode, because I did notice the number of viewers only started at about 8:15, 8:20, and you would like to watch the episode again, all of the episodes so far is on the YouTube channel. So just find Beginner Resources on YouTube. You can also please do like, subscribe, and to the channel so that the channel would get more traction and I could actually share the channel handle next time. And then I'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night and have a good weekend.